So a good friend of mine shared an article on Facebook about how early specialization and year-round training is destroying youth hockey. And basically, I'm going to cut to the chase here, but the premise of the article just basically says that putting kids into supervised youth hockey and stuff like that at a very young age and then having them play year round is actually bad for them. It leads to overuse injuries, it leads to bad habits. One of the comments they made is that practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. And so if they have bad habits as a child, the more they do it, it turns into a problem. And you know what? I feel like this is actually something that could apply to anything. Okay, so first off, I actually kind of disagree with the article because the article is too vague. And after I spoke with my friend about it, we both kind of agreed on the same thing. So the thing is, I grew up playing hockey. I was 3 years old when I first started playing, and for me, um, it really was just play. I never took it seriously ever, and I didn't burn out, as the article points out. It says that, psychological burnout that many players experience, it never happened for me. I loved hockey growing up. It was my favorite thing to do, and it's all I ever wanted to do. My mom will tell you, she'll be the first person to tell you, even in the summer, school was out, and I would get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd run across the street. My friend lived right across the street, and I'd knock on his door. Can Tim come out and play? And boom, we'd be in my driveway playing hockey at 7 o'clock in the morning. We'd play till noon, grab some lunch, sit around for a little bit, maybe hop in the pool, get back out. Same thing in the afternoon, playing hockey all afternoon. We'd both go home for dinner, and maybe an hour later, we were back outside. My parents put up floodlights and everything so we could keep playing. All right, and my friends would all come over. I have friends from all over the place coming over, and we had these hockey games in my driveway every single day. This is just kids playing with a ball. Okay, I mean, we used to play with a tennis ball even sometimes, which actually was great as a tool to develop stick handling because the damn thing bounces everywhere. So you really had to dial in your stick handling. It wasn't like playing with these pucks that kids have now that stay flat and they slide well. In any case, the thing is growing up, it was just play. That's all it ever was. It was just play. And the thing is, though, I'm looking at this and I'm realizing what the real crux of the article is that parents, and I'm sure you guys may have seen Trophy Kids on HBO, parents are putting their kids into these programs and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them, and they burn out and they end up not being any good. And I can tell you from experience, the kids whose parents kept pushing them, they went nowhere. It's sad, actually, to be completely honest with you when I stop and think about it, but the kids whose parents cared the most, yeah, they were better than everybody else because their parents kept pushing them. And then right around like 16, 17, 18, all of a sudden they just burned out and then they sucked. What's different is that I sucked. My whole life, I was not, I really wasn't a good hockey player. I'll be the first person to say I wasn't. I just wasn't. To me, it was just a game, so I didn't take it very seriously, and it was just something I did for fun. It wasn't like I thought to myself like, "Oh, I'm gonna go play in the NHL someday" or anything like that. My whole life growing up, it was just a game. And I want you guys to take my story and apply it to all sports. I don't care if your kids are playing baseball or soccer or football or whatever. My story applies to all sports, okay? But my whole life I never cared. I really didn't. And people told me, "Oh, wow, you're a great skater" and stuff like that. And maybe I was, but skating doesn't make you a good hockey player necessarily. You could still be a crappy hockey player even if you're good at skating. Um, and I just I don't know if I didn't have an eye for the game or if I really honestly I just think I just didn't take it seriously enough. Okay. Right at 16 though, suddenly something kicked in and I got really serious. And like I was saying to one of my friends the other day, I was a piss poor hockey player in high school. Um, but right around 16, I got really, really serious, and I got a really good coach. In fact, I got involved in a few different clinics and got one-on-one coaching with some really high-level coaches. Robbie Glantz is one of them. If anyone ever has a chance to train with him, he's absolutely fantastic. And it took me from being a low-level varsity high school hockey player to being junior level in just a year. Now, here's the thing I want to point out to you guys, okay? I already had this whole skill set. I had all these, I could skate in and out of cones all day, and, I could stick handle a puck all day long because I played as a child, so you develop those skills your whole life. But I got really, really serious at 16, and once that season ended, I decided I didn't want to play high school hockey anymore. I wanted to go and play juniors because I just decided that just wasn't for me. I was like, screw high school. I don't like playing high school hockey. So I started training, and when I say training, I mean like really actually training. I'd get up and go to the rink first thing in the morning, and I'd play for 2 hours, and then I would go to school. And as soon as I got out of school, my mom would grab me and drive me straight to the rink. And I'd go to the rink and I'd practice for 2 hours after school. And then I'd come home and I'd eat a dinner and try to bang out my homework as fast as I could because I would go back to the rink that night for another 2 or 3 hours of more practice. So almost every day I was putting in a minimum of 6 hours of training. And I really mean training. It was not play anymore. It was very, very focused. It had purpose. It had direction. It had instruction and supervision. I had a coach screaming at me and yelling at me and pushing me and, stopping to teach me something and then pushing me again. And it made me so much better though. And I had dry land training too. And I had to lift weights and I had to run sprints and all these other things. My life became immersed. And for a full year, I just worked my ass off. Unfortunately, life has other plans for you, and I suffered an injury that was bad enough that it made me decide to stop playing. Not because the injury was so bad, but because the injury was bad enough that it made me realize, wow, that could have been worse. And so I made the decision at that point in time to stop playing. But the point stays the same, is what I'm getting at here, and that's that pushing your kids to play is a formula for disaster. They're not going to become the next Wayne Gretzky if you push and push and push. You need to bring out the excellence in your children no matter what it is, okay? So what I'm really saying here is let them choose and then support them to become the best version of themselves. And I know I'm quoting Elliot Hulse here. He says, become the strongest version of yourself. But, the thing is here, really and honestly, like if your kid wants to be, if my kid comes to me and says, hey dad, I want to be a ballerina, I'm going to be like, dude, I'm going to support you 100%. I want you to be the best damn ballerina that you can ever possibly be. But if he goes to ballet practice and goes 3 or 4 times and says, I hate this, then I'm going to be like, good. Come on home. There's no sense in you doing this crap. If you don't love it, find something else that you do love. And then he comes back to me 3 months later and says, oh, you know what? I want to be a football player. I'm going to be like, awesome. Let's go play some football. And if he falls in love with that sport, then I just want to encourage him. I just want to tell him, hey, be the best football player you can be, not because I care whether or not you go to the NFL, but if this is what you love, if this is what you're passionate about, then be the best that you can be. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the best football player. You just have to be the best that you can be. One of the silly things in my life is that I fell in love with lacrosse. And I'm god awful terrible at lacrosse. I won't even kid around. I'm so bad at it, but it's really fun for me. And luckily, my school didn't have a team, so I never really got to pursue that avenue because there was no team. But had there been a team, I probably would have quit hockey. to go play lacrosse, but because hockey was the only sport they offered, that was the one I ended up playing. But my point to you is instead of picking a sport for your kids and then forcing them into it, watch Trophy Kids. It'll really wake you up. I mean, people forcing their kids to play golf or tennis, it's pretty. But in any case, let your kids pick the sport that they love. Let them pick the activity that they love. Maybe they love playing trumpet. Maybe it's not a sport at all. Maybe they love playing piano. Whatever it is, feed it. Let it grow. Nurture it. Let your kids pick what they love, and whatever they love, no matter what they love, just encourage them to be the best they can possibly be at it. And I swear to you, it'll work out 1,000 times better than if you push. Because if you push, they'll do the exact same thing that all my teammates did, that were pushed by their parents, and your kids will burn out and they'll quit, and they probably won't be very good at the sport. You'll put a lot of money into it and they'll go nowhere, and then at the last minute they're going to quit, and then you're going to sit there and be like, why did I spend all this money and all this time? And it's going to strain your relationship with your kids, because believe me, the kids that I grew up with, whose parents kept pushing and pushing and pushing, they hated their parents. Whereas, because my parents truly didn't care, I mean, they really didn't. Like, I don't mean that in a negative way. But like, if I would have come home and been like, hey mom, dad, I want to quit hockey, they would be like, okay. That'd be totally fine by them. They wouldn't have cared. But because I told them, mom, dad, I wanna get to the next level, my parents were like, okay, how can we get you to the next level? And it was like, well, I need to work with these coaches, and I need 6 to 8 hours of ice time a day, which is really expensive for those of you who know what I'm talking about. My dad started picking up all kinds of extra hours. My mom started working. My parents really busted their ass to have the money to pay for the coaches and the ice time, because it's not like I come from a very affluent family. So my parents worked really, really hard and made a lot of sacrifices of their own. My parents didn't go on any vacations. They saved every dime they made to spend it on my hockey career. So, but yeah, that's what people need to do. You want your kids to be great at something, let them pick it, and then you just feed it.